I want to talk to you about don't let worry steal your joy. Don't let worry steal your joy. Now already some of you, your antennas have went up a little bit because you know you're prone to be a worrier. And there are those who don't worry about anything or seemingly. But sooner or later, something comes along in your life that you will worry about. And some of you say, well, I don't worry, but you do. You fret your hands all the time about your kids or your grandkids or whatever. And so worry can really steal your joy. And so we want to talk about that today. What is worry? Well, I've said it before, and others have said it's not original, but worry is like a rocking chair. It'll give you something to do, but it really doesn't get you anywhere. Worry, the word worry comes from an old English word. The root means to struggle. It's to struggle, to strangle. And it literally strangles the life out of you when you become consumed with worry. And so I want us to look at Philippians chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9 this morning. And we're going to look at some things that the Apostle Paul said, some areas of life that can steal our joy, that will cause us to worry and steal our joy. So Philippians chapter 4, verse 1, the Bible says, "Therefore, my beloved and longed for brethren," we've already talked about how much he loved the church at Philippi. He calls them there beloved and longed for, and he says, "You're my joy and crown. So stand fast in the Lord, beloved." So what he's saying to them, he's right away getting their attention here. Don't let something steal your joy. Stand fast in the Lord. And then he says in verse 2, he says, "Stand fast in the Lord, beloved." So he really expresses affection to them in three different ways here. And then he says, "I employ," or I urge, Euodia, and I employ or urge Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. And I urge you also, true companion, help these women who labored with me in the gospel, with Clement also, and the rest of my fellow workers, whose names are in the book of life. Rejoice in the Lord, as opposed to getting caught up with division. Rejoice in the Lord, always. And again, I say rejoice. And so he's reminding us, don't let anything steal your joy. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. As if he has to say here, I just want to remind you, the Lord's coming back. He's coming soon. And you don't want to get caught in this condition of a loss of joy and worry. In verse 6 he says, "Be anxious." King James says, "Be careful." And it doesn't mean to, in King James, to be careful. He's saying, don't fret about anything. The word anxious here is a word that means to be pulled in different directions. See, our hopes pull us in one direction, and our dreams, our hopes and dreams will pull us one direction, and our fears will pull us another. It's to be pulled apart, to be strangled. It's to take the life from you. And that's what he's describing as worry. Let me go on. "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard or protect your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." Verse 8. "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, and whatever things are noble, and whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there's anything that's praiseworthy, he says, meditate or think on these things rather than worry. You can worry about 1,000 things, or you can think about the right things. And so then verse 9 he says, the things which you have learned and received and heard and saw in me, these do. This is where you're going to spend your time. Not in the rocking chair of worry. Now, I know not only get in the rocking chair of worry, some of you get in the bed and worry. Hello? Some of you, when you sit down to balance your checkbook, that's the desk of worry. Some of you, it's when you're driving in your car. It's that time when nobody else is talking to you. He says, but if you'll spend your time on the right things, and the God of peace will be with you. Father, I thank you today for the opportunity to preach on this subject and how you have given us instruction so that we can successfully have joy and not worry, and that we can experience it because of who you are. And I thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, from a spiritual point of view, and that's certainly where we ought to be looking, worry is literally wrong thinking in the mind. And it's wrong feelings in the heart. See, our worry can start in either place. Our worry can start in our mind based on some facts, or our worry can start in our heart based upon some wrong feelings that we may be experiencing about circumstances, or about people, or about some things. And worry is the greatest thief of joy. And so it's not enough for us to tell ourselves, quit worrying. You know, you ever told yourself, don't worry, and the more you said, don't worry, you worry. It's sort of like, don't think about that tan wall. No, everybody's mindful, that wall is tan. See, it's more than just telling yourself to not do it. It captures your mind. Worry is an inside job, and it takes more than good intentions to get victory. We've got to do some right things. And so Paul gives us 4 key areas of life that can steal our joy and cause us to worry. And as I told the early service this morning, this really should be 2 sermons. But I was going to try to do it in one, and you'll be happy to know it took me about 35 minutes in the first service. I typically preach about 10 minutes longer in this service. But anyway, that's just because y'all are so eager to hear, right? Okay, the first one that can cause us to lose our joy is that we need right relationships. If relationships aren't right, boy, we can begin to fret and we can begin to worry. As I already said, Paul loved these people and had a deep, deep love for the church at Philippi. And we talked about who those people were in the first sermon, people that he saw come to the Lord. And he referred to them 3 times here in terms of affection. And so, in this church, there were 2 ladies. He doesn't condemn them, by the way. There were 2 ladies who were disagreeing. They had a dispute about something. And it was not private. It had already gotten out. Other people knew about it. And that's why I believe it's addressed here in this letter specifically, because the church was aware of it. And it's amazing how when something happens in a church, everybody knows about it pretty quickly. You know, when there's issues. And I'm so thankful we've had such a wonderful, blessed fellowship here over the years. But here these ladies had a dispute, And Paul was concerned about the division that it could potentially bring to the church. See, at this point, the church is they were aware of it, but he knew that division could take place. And so he names these two ladies. First one's name is Herodias. Y'all want to say that with me? Help you remember. Herodias. Herodias. It doesn't look like it written. And the second one's name is Syntyche. Syntyche. Well, the Greeks, when they were baptized, they were given new Christian names. And Paul probably baptized these people, or at least he led them to the Lord when he started that church years earlier. And Eurodia was a lady whose name meant sweet fragrance. She was somebody that was pleasant to be around. She'd have made a great church hostess. She was somebody who made people feel comfortable. And that's how they named her. And she'd had this great testimony over the years. But for some reason, Eurodia and Syntyche sort of got crossed up. They both had their own way of thinking about something. Eurodia also means one who has gotten somewhere in life. In other words, she was a person of accomplishment. She was a person who was respected. And then Syntyche is a name that means polite, means courteous, gracious, pleasant. And so she also would have been one of those ladies that people just loved to be around. They had this testimony, and yet now they've got a dispute. They have the potential to steal joy and cause worry. Now, if anybody had a potential to worry, it would be the Apostle Paul. I mean, he's sitting in a Roman cell or Roman guard. He doesn't know he's probably going to be put to death. He doesn't know when. And then he had this going on in a church that he loved. You know, some of you have been around long enough to know that there's no hurt like church hurt. And when a church is divided, it just captivates you. And so Paul had reasons to worry. Let me give you some observations here. These two ladies are not mentioned anywhere else in the Bible. We have no other record of who they were, what they did, anything, other than their testimony by their name and the way Paul referred to them. Secondly, there's no details of what they disagreed on. So I wonder why he didn't tell us. Maybe we didn't need to know. Paul's instruction here, as we're going to get into about this, is so general that it will apply to any situation. That's what's cool about it. He gives them some instruction, and it will apply to any situation in relationship issues. And so I'm going to give you that instruction here in just a moment. And so Paul is counseling them towards harmony. And so we see here just a couple of things. We first of all see his concerns, not on the overhead. You might want to write this part down. If you're writing things down, the next few things I want to say are especially important in dealing with the right relationships. He expresses his concern. He says, I implore, or I urge. What he's emphasizing is a mutual wrong. He doesn't say, I employ Eurodia to deal with this issue, or that she get her thinking right. Or he doesn't say, I employ Syntyche. What he's emphasizing is mutual wrong. Can I tell you something? It takes two people to make a relationship work. You say, yeah, but you don't know what she did. Yeah, but I know how you feel about it. And remember what I said about worry? Worry is wrong thinking and wrong feeling. And so he urges them to come together. And then he gives them a word of instruction here, a word of correction. He says, have the same mind. What he's saying is, to both of these ladies, look, give up the grudge and forgive. And I told the early service, I've been married long enough that I have learned, and this is scriptural, based on things in Scripture, that I can be right or I can be happy. But as long as, this is really true, in any relationship, as long as you're concerned about being right and winning, you're never going to be happy. So y'all thought I was saying I was always wrong. Well, I am most of the time. Say amen. But as long as you're concerned about being right, you're never going to be happy. Because that's not what relationships are about. Relationships are about having the same mind. It's about the same objective. And as long as you're splitting sides on who's right and who's wrong, you're going to suffer. Paul says, look, you both have a role. That's the reason the book of Proverbs says that a soft answer turns away wrath. You can create more problems by how you respond to something. Hello? You husbands listening? Hey, you boys back there, you high school boys, hey, y'all better listen up. Save yourself from grief. I'm having fun. But then he makes an appeal. This is really important. Not only does he correct them, instruct them about what they need to do, but he makes an appeal to a third party. He says, my true companion, I want you to help them. But you know, sometimes it takes a third person to bring about resolution. You know, Jesus is the mediator between God and man. He came to bring a resolution when man was as sinful as they could be, and there was no other way. God sent Jesus. And he's the mediator between God and man. He brought the two parties together. And so he says, true companion. I want you to help bring these parties together. Now, the word companion here is a word that means comrade or someone who is with you. And I want to tell you the Greek word, not because I know Greek, but it's an interesting word. The word is sunjagos. And the word can literally mean not only a companion, but it can imply that it's a personal name, like the RDRCT. And so it's possible that he was talking to a specific person who knew how to bring people together. You know, that's a gift. And so he calls for a third party, and Sunshagos, this true companion, was someone who could bring people together. He was someone who could get in a harness with someone else and make headway. Have you ever tried to, you in a relationship, go two different directions? Doesn't work. It's a picture of two oxen in a yoke. As long as one's wanting to go this way and one's wanting to go this way, they're never going to get the ground plowed. They're never going to accomplish their purpose. And friend, I want you to know, when relationships aren't right, when one wants to go this way and one wants to go that way, you're never going to accomplish your purpose. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to have a great relationship. You're not going to be able to do anything together. And so the Apostle Paul here is talking to these women, and he says, I want a third party to come along and help you pull together. And so sometimes, to have a right relationship, you just simply need a third party to help both sides to look at this situation. And so he appeals to them, and then he affirms their faith. Now this is interesting. He says in verse 3, He says they labored with me in the gospel. There it is. With Clement also and the rest of my fellow workers whose names are in the book of life. Have you ever just said, you know, I don't believe that person's saved? You got mad at them about something, or y'all had a disagreement? Now, I don't think we have this here too much, but I've never dealt with this. But I've been around long enough to know, and some of you have too, that people can get crossed up at each other. And I've been picking on the men a little bit, picking on women. Sometimes women can get crossed up at each other for nothing in the church. Hello?
Amen.
She didn't speak to me. I'm meddling now. I better stop. But Paul didn't say, you ladies are lost, you need to get saved. No, he recognized their labor, and he further affirmed their faith. He said their names are written in the book of life. And you know what? That's a good thing, but it calls us to a higher standard. If you're saved, then you've got a higher standard. Your goal is to be together and not to be separate. Because God is all about unity, as we looked at in sermon earlier in this series. And so he affirms their faith, and then finally, in this instruction, he encourages them to restore their rejoicing. What he's saying is, refocus on celebrating God's goodness. Refocus yourself. Rejoice always. And again I say, rejoice. He's emphatic. He says it twice. Get your focus back on the Lord and on praising Him and enjoying your salvation and your witness. Because right now the only things people could think about Euodia and Syntyche is, when they walked in a room together, the third person felt a little uncomfortable. I wish I could say more. I'd like to say more, but I better not. I've got a lot more to say about the rest of this sermon. So Paul had good reason to worry, but instead he took time to explain the secret to victory over the word, right relationships. Number 2, we not only need right relationships, we need right praying. Right praying will help us defeat worry in our life. Paul uses 3 different words here to describe right praying. He uses the word prayer in verse 6. He uses the word supplication. And then he uses the word thanksgiving. These are 3 words that describe the right kind of praying. First of all, the word prayer is a general word. It's not specific in terms of talking about a particular need, but it's a general prayer, and it implies a spirit of worship and adoration. It's when you go to the Lord and you say, Lord, you're just so good. I just love you today. Thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given me. Thank you, Lord, for letting me get out of bed today. And Lord, you're so good to us. You should have dealt with me according to my sins, but you didn't. You gave Jesus, your Son. And Lord, I just love you for forgiving me. It's a spirit of worship and adoration. And so, if our prayer life is not right, then our worship's not going to be right. But boy, you get prayer hooked up with worship, and that's when worship can get excited. And so, we must realize that God is big enough to solve our problems. And so, whatever's going on in our life, we can trust Him with it. And we know that He's going to answer. And then he uses the word supplication. The word supplication is a word that means an earnest sharing of our needs and problems. It's moving beyond the generality of worship of who God is to actually sharing our personal needs. Now, a lot of times as Christians, we use that prayer, but we never get to sharing our needs in an earnest way until something bad happens. your brother. That's heightened your prayer life, hasn't it? That's changed your prayer life. When a brother, he's up in the hospital, God's done miracles, and he's recovering. But what happened to him, it caused her to earnestly seek God. For God to respond to the need, and God to respond to the problem. And so that's a part of the right kind of praise, is that we must not only worship Him in adoration, but we must bring our needs to Him and watch for Him to respond. The Bible says the prayer of faith will save the sick. The prayer of faith is believing that God will respond, not because we said it one time and forgot about it. Oh, that sounds like a lot like Baptist, doesn't it? God told us that He's not interested. Jesus said He's not interested in meaningless repetition. You're just saying the same thing over and over as if it's just some sort of mantra. That's not praying. But we must realize that God wants us to earnestly be seeking Him for our needs and our problems. Sometimes we have needs and sometimes we have problems. So then the third word is thanksgiving. And so that's not only a worship of our adoration or supplication, but it's an appreciation for who God is and what He has done and will do. And we come to Him with thanksgiving. It reminds you the story Jesus told about the 10. Are y'all happy? Y'all okay today? Some of you looking like you. Hey, now, you have to shake yourself. The story Jesus told about the 10 lepers. He healed all 10 of them. But how many of them came back and said, who knows? Say it out loud. Only one. And that's about the way it is. We ask God for something, and we never go back and say thank you. And He responds. And so our prayer life should be part of it should just be a thanksgiving for God's goodness and a thanksgiving for God's working in our life. And so He wants us to come to Him. And so Paul is counseling us here not to worry about anything, but to pray about everything. And we're prone to pray for the big things in life and forget to pray about the little, quote, little things. But I'm telling you, little things become big things without prayer. Little things will become big things without prayer. And so then he gives us a promise here that the peace of God will guard our heart and our mind. Now, Paul uses the word guard here. And it's a Greek word that means garrison. It refers to a whole legion of soldiers. That Paul will guard our hearts and our minds. Our hearts and our minds. Remember where I told you the problem was? Wrong thinking and wrong feeling. And God can guard that. Now while Paul's writing this, he takes his quill and he reaches over to dip into the ink. But when he does, attached to him is a Roman guard. He guards my heart and my mind. That's how close God is. That's where God is. He's with us at the very point of the need. He understands our wrong feelings. He understands our wrong thinking. And He knows how to help us have the peace of God. Now, we get the peace with God at salvation. But we get the peace of God through right praying. And through doing the right things. Regardless of circumstances. Regardless of people. Regardless of things. So, we need right relationships. We need right prayer. And it won't take me long to do these last 2 points. We need right thinking. Right thinking. Verse 8, Paul reminds us here that peace involves our heart and our mind. And if we think wrong, it's going to lead to wrong feelings. And before long, the heart and the mind will be pulled apart and strangled by worry. Somebody said it this way: sow a thought, you reap an action. Sow an action, you reap a habit. Sow a habit, you reap a character. And sow a character, you reap destiny. Here's the simple one: you are what you think, and you become what you think about. So if you give yourself to all the wrong things, that is what you will become. And it will become your life. And so it matters what we think. And so Paul here, he quickly gives us 4 things that I just got to hit. Basically, he says, whatever is true. Did you know that about 92% of the things you worry about never come to pass? You fret your hands, and you lay in bed, and you toss and you turn, and maybe you even talk to people about it, and you're just worrying about something that's never going to come. It's putting tomorrow's forecast into effect today in your life. God wants you to live today and trust Him today. And so God will take care of tomorrow. As Jesus said, He has enough evil of Himself. Don't worry about tomorrow, Jesus said. And so Satan works in this area, and he's a liar. Did y'all know Satan lies? Does he ever lie to you? Yeah, he's a liar. He's the father of lies. He's a liar from the beginning. John said the truth is not in him. And he lies. And he tells you things that are not true. That's what a liar does. And causes you to believe they're true. And so he lies to us in order to corrupt our mind so that we won't recognize and live by truth. So he says, whatever is true, think about. And he says, whatever is noble and whatever is right. That means whatever is worthy of respect. Spend your time on that. Let your mind get a hold of that. Avoid those things that are unpleasant and displeasing to the Lord. And put your attention on honorable things that control your mind. That don't. I asked them in the early service, have you ever been a little sick? You know, you got a stomach bug and it kept, and you planned your funeral from that thing. Hey, it's just a stomach bug. I mean, you already planned it out. Your checkbook got low and you're in a tight situation. And you've already went bankrupt. You've lost your home. You're just struggling to buy a few groceries. That's what worry does. He says, think on those things that are noble and those things that are right, worthy of respect, and control our thoughts. And then he says, whatever is pure, lovely, and of good report. The word pure, got to touch on this. It means moral purity. And I just want to say, it's not only our young people who need to focus on moral purity. We as adults need to focus on moral purity as well. You say, well, I'm not unfaithful to my spouse. Well, you can be immorally unpure and still not go out on your spouse. By what you think about it. Remember, sow a thought, reap an action. And so it says, be pure in your thinking. We live in a day today where there's temptation everywhere to be impure. Are you listening? It's everywhere. From the internet to music to TV to whatever media. I mean, you can just be giving you a piece of pack of gum at the checkout stand. And there it is. It's everywhere. So he says, think on what is pure. And then he says, lovely. And that just means beautiful and attractive. And then he says, a good report. See, what's worth talking about? You know what? What's worth talking about? What's worth repeating? And then he says, whatever possesses excellence or virtue, he says, is praise. So he tells us, if it has virtue, it will motivate us to do better. And if it has praise, it's worth commending to others. It's worth telling others about. And no Christian can afford to waste his or her time on the wrong thoughts, because they will lead you to lose your joy and become consumed with worry. So we need right relationships. We need right praying. We need right thinking. And we need right living. Take just a couple minutes. He says, the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. Verse 9. He says, practice these things and the God of peace will be with you. You see, it's one thing to learn the truth, but it's another to receive it. You guys are sitting here and you're listening. Best I can tell y'all, you're listening. But you've got to receive it as truth. And then he says, you've heard it and you've seen it. These do. You see, in Paul's ministry, people didn't only hear him teach the Word of God, but they watched him live out what he taught. And so if we do that, and we apply it, then we become doers of the Word and not hearers only. I just want to do a little test today. I mean, have an evaluation. How many of you would like to apply what you've heard this morning? Raise your hand. Now, I'm not going to judge you if you didn't raise your hand. Some of you just don't like to raise your hand. Okay. But I wanted you to say, realize, you know what, I want to apply this. Because James says, if we do not do, we're hearers only. He said, we deceive ourselves. So you can say, I want to apply what I've heard today. But if you don't apply it, you've deceived yourself. You lied to yourself when you raised your hand.